All right, let's go back to one of our top stories for today. President Cyril Ramaphosa has held the first day of deliberations at the Government of National Unity Cabinet Lekgotla in Pretoria as productive. And for more on this, we are now joined once again by Professor Siphamandla Zondi, Professor of Politics at the University of Johannesburg. Professor, thank you once again for your time this evening. Perhaps let's start off from the top and just give us again your thoughts when it comes to the first Cabinet Lekgotla we are seeing, especially focusing on the fact that we are seeing a Cabinet Lekgotla that involves a number of political leaders from different political formations.
Yes, good evening and good evening to the viewers. Yes, you know, the process of building the GNU has been long and a little complicated. But what we have witnessed was one focus on structures of government and then focus on cabinet positions and all of that. What has been missing is a focus now on the policy agenda, the actual content and substance of this government. And today and tomorrow, then there's an opportunity to craft that on a basis that every party will feel that it is part of this government. There is anything between 20 and 28 policy areas that are mentioned already in the statement of intent that now must be crystallized into things that can be actioned, things that can be implemented in this coming term of government. I think that the greatest opportunity is in the fact that the things that are mentioned in the statement of intent are broad areas of agreement across society. What is different is how each party interprets them or how each party proposes each of them could be overcome. If you think, for example, about the fact that all parties think that we must accelerate the issue of provision of water to all society. It must be safe, it must be drinkable, it must be economical, it must reach everyone. But parties differ on whether this must be done by the state through water boards or must be done with the participation of private sector. The compromise might be to say you do it both. The state goes up to a certain point and then you create room for private sector to also participate. That way you marry both perspectives on how you provide and expand water access throughout the country. Yeah. So there is possibility if you want to accommodate parties instead of situations where you want a party wants to win in this or that portfolio.
All right. And, you know, looking at, the fact that we had no outright majority in this year's elections, it's also the first time where we are seeing that an NEC Lekgotla from the ANC did not take place. What makes this Cabinet Lekgotla different from the ones we've seen in the past?
You know, one of the biggest difficulties is going to be this. The policy agenda actually tends to be shaped very significantly by the work of senior public servants in the administration. And they give it to the ministers to give some form of political legitimacy. So the policy agenda has been worked on for a long period of time, and I know that the public servants would have been in the past 2 weeks looking at what they bring from every party so that what they sell to these leaders who are meeting today is what already accommodates it. And that, in a way, a positive part, the fact that the public service in South Africa, the public administration, has shown maturity, the ability to run government without politicians. And when the politicians are getting involved today and tomorrow, with officials, as you see, right at the back of the room, all of them there have been doing this for a long period of time. They've been through each administration and they have learned how to accommodate every dynamic in every administration so that their views are reflected. So you expect very little deeper disagreement in this because work would have been done already of being inclusive. But fortunately, all political parties have long accepted the National Development Plan as a plan of the country and therefore the plan for themselves. Given that the public officials used the National Development Plan, which was accepted by all parties in Parliament 2012, it makes the room for accommodation a lot bigger than we anticipate. But we will not avoid a situation where parties play to the gallery when they're now going on to implement, to try and assert their identity so that their identity do not disappear in this accommodation of policy agenda.
And looking at the agenda itself, I mean, being prioritized, energy security, reducing poverty, creating jobs, this is something that many South Africans will want to hear from the GNU when it comes to the SONA that will be presented by President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Sorry, I missed that.
I was saying that when you look at what's being prioritized in this Cabinet Lekgotla, when it comes to issues around energy security, when it comes to issues around reducing poverty and also creating of jobs, when it comes to the SONA that will be presented by President Cyril Ramaphosa, many South Africans want to know what is the way forward, especially now through this GNU.
Definitely. The energy is going to be one of the areas where all parties want to score some point. The tragedy of load shedding for a long period of time has made issue of energy a big one. And during the parliamentary budget votes, the issue of energy was also one where there was contestation. You saw a little bit of contestation among GNU members, besides the contestation between the GNU and the governing party. But what is going to test is whether the ANC minister who's now been brought back to that area will have the tact and the wisdom to placate the concerns of the opposition party that the ANC or the new GNU members, that the ANC will simply steamroll its position and give only superficial accommodation to their position. So a lot of what is being done now is going to test not just the ability of these ministers to lead their portfolio, but in the ability to lead it in a manner that seems to be accommodating other parties, so that they do not develop fissures at this very early point. That could be the basis for the collapse of this coalition government, because it can actually collapse on very small decisions, can collapse it. And that is why it has to be handled with care. And President Ramaphosa's diplomatic unifying skills are going to be tested to the gate in this particular situation. Actually, across all portfolios, and I think about what the Minister of Land was just saying the other day, that as part of their work on land, they will be pushing for the amendment of the Constitution to make land expropriation without compensation accommodated in the Constitution and make sure it is strong. This move was defeated in the past, of course, by the ANC and the DA. We wonder whether they will be able to push it, but he was very adamant that his constituency expects him to deliver that while within the GNU.
Professor Zondi, thank you so much for your time this evening. That's Professor Siphamandla Zondi, politics professor from the University of Johannesburg.